Now we are going to speak about price control and regulation. Now we all must be knowing some or the other aspect about what is a price control or regulation in these scenarios. The term price control basically refers to the legal minimum or maximum prices set for a specified goods. Price control are normally mandated by the government in the free market. Thus, I would say a price control refers to a technique of establishing a lower limit or an upper limit of a selling price of specified goods or services. In other words, the government intervenes to set the maximum or minimum price of any product or service in a market. Usually, the government imposes such techniques as a short-term measure to ensure the affordability of essential products and services to the public, fight inflation and deflation, etc. So basically in this regard, in turn maintains a consumer's purchasing power and economic growth at the same time is maintained. However, in the long run, the control measure seems ineffective. Some of the examples to illustrate about price control could be, let's take an example of economic intervention by government using economic policy to interrupt market forces. The government may rise or reduce the standard prices of a product or a services, disregarding the equilibrium price. However, it will help the government in different ways, like to attain price stability and steer clear of inflation and deflation. Lowering interest rates paves the way for inflation, and in such a situation, the government can impose price control measures to stop inflation. It is an important tool to many economies, like how they use interest rate, open market operations, reserve requirement to influence the movement in the economy. Also, this type of control helps the government to curtail the negative impact of their policy. The Nixon shocks exemplifies using price restriction as a key method against inflation. So the term you should remember, it's called as Nixon shock, Nixon shock exemplifiers. So here in this case, it is a name given to a set of economic policy undertaken in US by President Richard Nixon in the year 1971 in order to curb inflation and wage escalations. The president announced that all the prices and wages in US would not change for 3 months. Nixon's pricing control were effective for a time. However, Nixon's price control phase 2 imposed high complicated requirements which were disliked by the public. Let's consider another example. The measures adopted by China recently to present price control example. China's price controlling efforts are not confined to a few industries. It includes measures covering different sectors like power and agriculture. All these intended policy changes points to scaling up of control measure in the environment or in the economy. One of the measures includes China's plan to deal with abnormal fluctuations by adopting policy to fix iron ore, copper, corn and other major commodity prices. This will reflect in 14th five-year plan for 2021 to 2025 policies. In addition, China will also focus on pricing of commodity like crude oil, soya bean oil, etc., responsibly, or they would be taking the prices reasonably, adjusting cotton target prices level and checking whether entities are following the country's minimum purchase price policy framework for rice and wheat. Hence, building a solid grain supply and establishing prices to guarantee food security in the nation. Price control are put in place to manage affordability of goods and services on the market. Minimum are called as price floor, while the maximum are called as price ceiling. This control are only effective on an extremely short-term basis. Over a long term, the price control leads to problems such as shortages, rationing, inferior product quality and legal markets. We will discuss about price ceiling, price floor in the coming slides. When we are talking about price ceiling refers to the maximum price authorized by the government for certain goods and services, letting the seller charge. A price ceiling scenario is common in the region where the demand for goods and services is high and the supply is low. As a result, the maximum price decided by the government is usually a price lower than the equilibrium price. Now, this important point underlines here, it should be set below the equilibrium price. When the equilibrium price established by the free play of demand and supply is too high for the poor, the government plays a significant role in regulating the prices of essential commodity, including wheat, sugar, kerosene, etc. Price ceiling refers to fixing the maximum price of a commodity at a level lower than equilibrium price. You can simply put that price ceiling are higher limits set by the government on the price of a product. Let's give you some examples to illustrate this. Rent control, which limits how much landlord can charge monthly for a residences, are an example of price ceiling. Caps on the cost of prescription or prescribed drugs and the lab test are another example of common price ceiling. In addition, insurance company often sets caps on the amount they are going to reimburse a doctor for a procedure, treatment or office visit. Government typically calculate price ceiling that attempts to match the supply and demand curve for a product or service question at an equilibrium point. In other words, they try to impose control within the boundaries what the natural market will bear. However, over time, price ceiling itself can impact the supply and demand of a product or service. In such a case, the calculated price ceiling may result in shortages or reduced quality. Price ceiling can be dealt in many ways. The first one is first come, first serve basis. The second one is through lottery system. The third one is seller selection. And the fourth one is choice of government. We will talk about it in details in the coming slides. Thank you.